this meeting of the Miami Township Board of Trustees, Montgomery County, May 12th, 2020 to order. If everybody could please stand and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Morris?
Here. Aye.
Mr. Culp?
Here.
Mr. Posey?
Here.
All right, I want to thank everybody for joining us. A reminder, this is our virtual meeting on May 12th via Zoom. If you are watching the meeting live and you later on during the public comment period want to address the Board of Trustees, there's a mechanism with you just raise your hand, and then Mr. Henkelman will recognize that, and he will queue you up at the time we have open comments. At this time, I'm very pleased to announce we have no military casualties. Chief Stegelmeyer, first responder casualties, please.
Good evening, Board. Following the first responder casualties for the period of April 28th through May 12th, 2020. Corrections Officer James Coleman, Texas Department of Criminal Justice, Texas. End of watch April 28th, 2020. Senior Police Officer Mark Hall, Sr., New Orleans Police Department, Louisiana. End of watch April 30th, 2020. Detective Sergeant Randall C. French, Troy Police Department, New York. End of watch April 30th, 2020. Detention Deputy Timothy De La Fuente, Bexar County Sheriff's Office, Texas. End of watch April 30th, 2020. Fire Captain Mike A. Tapodi, American Samoa Fire Bureau, Division of Public Safety. End of watch April 30th, 2020. Fire Captain Alan L. Valega, American Samoa Fire Bureau Division of the Department of Public Safety. End of watch April 30th, 2020. Deputy Fire Chief Edward Sioka, White Plains Fire Department, New York. End of watch May 1st, 2020. Police Officer Jason Knox, Houston Police Department, Texas. End of watch May 2nd, 2020. Police Officer Michael S. Mosher, Overland Park Police Department, Kansas. End of watch May 3rd, 2020. Fire Captain Andrew DiMaggio, New Rochelle Fire Department, New York. End of watch May 3rd, 2020. Sergeant Lionel Q. Martinez, Alamo Colleges Police Department, Texas. End of watch May 5th, 2020. And firefighter David F. Jameson, Jr., Independence Fire Department, Missouri. End of watch May 7th, 2020.
Thank you, Chief. If everyone could please join me in observing a moment of silence. Thank you. We have no guests or presentations. I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion?
Mr. Morris?
Aye.
Mr. Culp?
Aye.
Mr. Posey?
Aye.
Mr. McCord, we have resolution 038-2020.
Yes, good evening, Board. I have the following transfer resolution to move some money from the permissive motor vehicle fund 223 into the general fund to make the payment on the public works backhoe lease. It was noted in an audit in the cover memo that I provided you during one of the audits last year or the year before, I can't remember exactly which one. The auditor commented on the fact that the lease agreement referred to the general fund only, and so they asked that we pay for that out of the general fund. However, when we put the budget together last year, we had it coming out of the permissive motor vehicle as a capital expense. This is just really a housekeeping matter on our part, and this is, I believe, the second to the last payment, so we only have one more, so we'll correct that going into next year. Any questions?
Seeing none, thank you. is Mr. Hinkleman. Has anyone raised their hand and interested in a public comment?
We have multiple attendees, but it does not look like anyone is raising their hand.
Very good. I will close the public comment period. I will make a motion to approve Resolution 038-2020, a resolution to approve a transfer of funds from the Permissive Motor Vehicle Fund number 223 to the General Fund number 101. Therefore, be it resolved, the Miami Township Board of Trustees approves the transfer of $24,600 from the Permissive Motor Vehicle Fund number 223 to General Fund number 101 for the purpose of the 2020 backhoe lease payment. Is there a second?
Second the motion.
Any discussion?
Mr. Morris,
Aye.
Mr. Culp,
Aye.
Mr. Posey.
Aye.
We have no public hearings. Department head comments. Administrator Hess.
Thank you, sir. Just a couple comments. First, I want to remind everybody that this is Police Memorial Week. Obviously, with the pandemic, things have changed. I just want to thank all our officers for the outstanding work they do. Also, would like for everybody to remember all those officers for all the communities across our country that have lost officers giving their lives in the line of duty for their communities. Also, we have put out that our buildings will be open to the public again starting Monday on the 18th. I want to thank all our staff for keeping our operations moving forward, especially those that have come into the building. So to answer the phones, take deliveries, and support those that are working from home. And finally, on somewhat of a personal note, I'd like to congratulate my daughter, Casey, for obtaining her master's degree from Miami University 1 year ago today. She received her bachelor's degree in social work from Wilmington. And Mr. Culp, no, I'm not going to help her get her doctorate degree.
We'll work on you about that one.
Yeah, but she worked hard for this, and she has a job offer at Northridge Schools, and she's excited to start. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Chief Stegelmeyer.
Good evening again, Board. I have one thing to bring before you tonight. We received a visit today from a Chris Parlett of the Huffy Corporation, whose business is right here on Gander Creek in Miami Township. And we were the recipients of 4 brand new police mountain bikes, which was a very much needed item for the township. Our present bikes are over 20 years old, and the Huffy Corporation graciously stepped up and donated 4 brand new state-of-the-art mountain bikes to the police department. They actually put our striping package on it and our police patch, and they're very much ready for service. So I wanted to thank Huffy Corporation, Chris Parlett, for all their diligent work and working with our officers and getting these new bikes to us. They're going to be put to good use here as the summertime rolls around. So that was a very much needed addition to the police department, and again, without cost. So I want to thank them.
Excellent. That's very good news indeed.
Hello there.
Hello. Have,
Mike.
have a seat right there.
Yeah, thanks.
We have a visitor in the trustee room.
I'm sorry?
Nothing. We're transmitting the meeting right now.
Oh.
Excellent. So I will move to elected officials' comments. Mr. Newell.
I have none.
Mr. Culp's taking a drink. I will ask Mr. Posey.
Yeah, I have just one comment. I'd like to wish my wife a happy anniversary today, and I promise to be home as soon as possible after this meeting.
I'm sure she's definitely watching. Mr. Culp.
I'd like to thank Ron Hess for tracking down the latest on the Hutchings Dam project. I look forward to making progress on that in the near future. So sounds like we're starting to engage other community leaders, and we'll try to make that happen.
Excellent. I would like to make a couple of comments. Thank you to all the staff for all the work that you've done during this pandemic and maintaining services as best we can deliver them without being open. I'm excited to get the offices back open, maintaining social distancing and making them safe for both those who visit and those who work here in the township on May 18th. We are endeavoring to get to live face-to-face meetings as fast as we can. It appears as if our May 26th trustee meeting will also be a virtual meeting, but we do have hopes that perhaps by June 9 meeting that we can go back to a regular meeting of the Board of Trustees. The challenge we have, of course, is the social distancing guidelines. We have a number of staff and we have a number of elected officials, and these chairs are normally about 2 feet apart. So if we were to spread it across the whole room, and we don't want to necessarily limit the capacity of those from the public who could be in the meeting, this Zoom meeting actually provides more capacity for more people to get engaged in the meetings. So we'll play it by ear. Our next meeting on the 26th will remain virtual, but perhaps by June we'll be able to move back into a regular live meeting. I'd also like to share with the public, I participated in a interview session with the candidates for Miamisburg superintendent, the new superintendent of Miamisburg Public School District. There was a large number of representatives from the community. Our administrator, Ron Hess, was there as well. I'd like to thank the Board of Education for bringing 3 quality candidates. And I think whomever they choose will do a wonderful job taking the school district where it needs to be. I spoke with 3 or 4 individuals after the meeting, and each one of us had a different favorite in the race. So I think they've got three solid choices, and I wish them the best in deciding whom they're going to make that offer to. With that, I will close the regular meeting, and I will make a motion that we move into work session. This is at 6:11, and just for those that may be watching, a work session is open to the public. This is where the trustees and elected officials get educated on some issues impacting the township, and we can discuss those in open forum. So I make a motion to move into work session.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Morris,
Aye.
Mr. Culp,
Aye.
Mr. Posey,
Aye.
Mr. Snyder, you were on the docket to talk to us about Renegade Warehouse.
Okay, well, good evening, board. I wasn't nervous until Terry informed me that his anniversary is on the line here, depending on how long I take this. So we'll try and get through this quickly and give you a brief update here. So we have been working for some time with Renegade Warehouse based in West Carrollton currently to locate on our property behind the Public Works facility about a 2-acre parcel. I think Kyle can put up a map showing the approximate layout that's been proposed. So you can see on this about 22.4 acre property that we own that currently contains a fire station as well as the Public Works facility that we've parceled off 5 total parcels. The intent was to ultimately plat this property and subdivide it to separate the fire station property from the Public Works facility, and also to separate the internal roadway, and then leave a 3rd parcel, which would be the 2-acre parcel that Renegade Warehouse is currently interested in obtaining. And then we would have about an 8-acre remaining parcel at the west end of the property, adjacent to the Cranes Run subdivision parcel. So the intent has been that if the buyer proceeded through the purchase process and ultimately desired to continue to acquire this property, that transaction would be handled by the CIC. The CIC can do this because under the statutes, they are the only entity that can transfer property to a private party. The township cannot directly do that, but we can transfer it to the CIC, and they can do that for purposes of an economic development project where there are jobs that are going to be created. The intent of the buyer is to establish a sports exercise and training facility with a rehab component as well on the property. They have asked for consideration of some additional uses, which would have to be considered as part of a rezoning of the property. The the proposed use is not currently allowed under the existing agricultural zoning. So again, they have proposed to purchase the property at $40,000 an acre. We do have a couple of issues that would have to be resolved as part of a final easement agreement, both long-term maintenance of the roadway that is currently maintained as a private road by Miami Township. And also, as part of the project, we would have to extend the main sewer line, which is currently located just behind Jane Chance Elementary School, just to the north of the retention pond, which you can see in the upper left of the photo there. That line would have to be extended down approximately along the property line of parcel 5 down to parcel 3 to allow us to tie in our future property, the remaining 8 acres, as well as parcel 3 to that sewer line. We cannot, by county code requirements, extend service lines across private property lines. So the main line sewer would have to be extended at least to that point. That is probably one of the single largest expenses from the infrastructure side of the development. We're estimating approximately $60,000 cost for that sewer line extension. Again, the cost share would have to be finalized as part of our easement agreements with the proposed buyer for that. So that's a quick rundown of that. Again, if it's a desire of the board to move forward with this project still, we anticipate, again, wrapping up a purchase contract with the buyer. That would outline a number of due diligence items, including completion of these easement agreements and the cost share, both for future maintenance of the roadway, as well as the cost share on the utility extensions. The water line, which currently ends at the end of the cul-de-sac there, and what is shown as parcel 4, would also have to be extended slightly to connect that to our future parcel 5, as well as extending it to connect to parcel 3. With that, again, we do have a number of other items we could discuss in terms of the history of this project, but I don't want to take up too much of your time. We would have to, again, finalize those agreements, rezone the property, create a subdivision plat, get that approved and recorded, and then ultimately finalize the transaction, which would be handled by the CIC. So we'll leave it at that at the moment and see, I guess, if there's any questions, or if Ron or Clay or Dan would like to add any additional items at this point. So.
Mr. Posey, do you have any questions on this project?
I don't. I think it's interesting. I would be more interested if we had some firm numbers to the value to the township to put to it.
Mr. Culp, do you have any questions?
I do not know. We've seen this a couple times, I think, in the past, so yeah, I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, and I would just like to make sure I understand, Mr. Snyder. We've got a potential proposal to sell 2 acres at $40,000 an acre. We have probably $60,000 to $80,000 worth of infrastructure work that would be necessary to make those. So this basic sale would be a wash, but is it not true that that investment would then open up the 8 acres for potential development, and that infrastructure investment is necessary before we can do anything on that 8 acres?
Yes, yes, that's correct. I mean, the basic numbers there that you stated, as well as the fact that, again, that's what, if it was a desire of the board to ultimately develop or sell that further acreage, then obviously having the sewer line extension would make that more feasible. So, and that's where you're ultimately going to recoup that value. The property is in the JED, so there would be some income tax collection off of the employees at the facility, but again, they don't project to have a large employment base. So.
Very good. Thank you. Mr. Snyder, Mr. McCord, Austin Landing Road.
Okay. Well, I can start off and give you some of the basics here again. The roadways at Austin Landing are primarily public roadways. There are a few private roadways in the development, but the main roads, Innovation Drive, the main boulevards that come into the development, Austin Landing Boulevard, Landing Way, are public roadways. Those were constructed primarily around 2010, 2011. Teradata was the first office building that was constructed out there, and that was constructed around 2010. So those roadways are coming up, particularly Innovation Drive, on about 10 years of age at this point. There have been issues to date with the condition of the roadways. There is, if any of you have driven down through there, considerable cracking, some depressions that have formed in various spots out there. There's been some discussion with the ownership dating back to the previous ownership, not just the most recent ownership of Austin Landing, with costs and methodology for working together to try and get those roads repaired. Ultimately, there were a couple of analyses that were done, both by Bear Becker and CBC engineers. CBC engineers was probably the most comprehensive analysis that was completed. They did take 15 core samples along the roadways in various sections to try to determine exactly what the composition of the asphalt and the base material was out there. Ultimately, they determined that there did not appear to be any observable defects with the material itself in terms of the composition of the asphalt or the base material. The roadways were designed to essentially meet the collector street standard for Montgomery County. And Dan may be able to provide a little more insight into how those standards apply in different settings. But the primary issue that has been identified that, to the best that the engineers can identify it at this point, is that there has been some spots where it appears there's been some moisture that's issues that have arisen underneath the pavement. That combined with the fact that there was an extended period of time where there was construction traffic and truck traffic as part of the project may have led to some of that early deterioration in the pavement sections out there. Irregardless, the current ownership has worked with Southern Ohio Paving to get an analysis and a proposal together of what it would take to get the roads brought up essentially to current standards and improve on the current pavement composition. They have proposed essentially milling off a little over 5 inches of the current asphalt, and particularly in large stretches of Innovation Drive. There would be some sections where they'd have to do, I think, some deeper base repair, depending on what they find in those sections. And then rebuilding those sections with a thicker asphalt base and a thicker surface course, essentially adding about 5.5 inches of asphalt on that original base. So they do feel that ultimately, since a lot of that construction traffic has subsided at this point due to the level of development of the project, that new asphalt composition would be able to handle the current traffic and the projected traffic in the development at this point. So what they have proposed is spending a little over $500,000 to bring those sections up to snuff, so to speak. And then ultimately, again, getting to the point where we could get them on a regular maintenance schedule, and obviously in projected 15, 20-year time span that they would have to be, again, remilled and resurfaced at that point in time. They are requesting assistance in getting that work completed. They have proposed to complete that work at their initial cost, but they are looking for assistance in ultimately recouping that investment from us. So think one of the items that we wanted to discuss with the board tonight is one, any questions that you have regarding why this would potentially be done. And then also to address the mechanism if we desired to reach an agreement with the current ownership to try and get this work completed. Is there an interest of the board to utilize the TIF funds for that work? One of the issues that arose over time with this project was when the initial agreements were put together under the TIF legislation in Ohio, you cannot utilize TIF funds for roadway maintenance. So in 2012, when the initial agreement was put together, and then again in 2014, when that was modified to utilize some of the JED receipts, that legislation was not in effect. That was not changed until 2016 under House Bill 413. So that's one of the major changes that's occurred in terms of our ability to potentially fund maintenance issues out here. Obviously, we have different constraints on different sources of funds. The original thinking that went into those agreements was different under what they were operating under legislation at that time. So I think at this point, I'll turn it over to Clay and Ron. I guess if you guys have any additional items you want to add, but like I said, we do have some additional data here if we want to get into more detail on this. But I think the main question is just what is the board's desire, given the current condition of the roads, to try and reach an agreement with current ownership. We do have some contractual responsibilities to fund maintenance in the project. This would be a different mechanism for funding that maintenance, and I think ultimately would need to lead to a new arrangement in terms of the existing contracts that we have with that project. So I guess I'll leave it at that at this point and see if there's any initial questions. So,
Clay, did you want to add anything?
I was going to say that I have discussed this with our bond counsel, and the resurfacing Innovation Drive and the public roads out at Austin Landing do qualify under the statute. So it's an appropriate use of TIF funds. The projected lifespan of this work would take us up until about the end of the TIF. So one of the takeaways that I'm going to try to work into our plan as we move forward is to not only address potentially, if everyone's in agreement, the current need, but also start setting aside some of those TIF funds so that when the work is due in 2035, we have a reserve to take care of at least a portion of that, if not all of that resurfacing that would need to be done at that time, just prior to the TIF expiring. So that doesn't put an undue burden back on the Road and Bridge Fund immediately after the expiration of the TIF. Other than that, I've looked at the cash flow projections. I've been working on it. I got a tool from the Government Finance Officers Association that's helping with that a little bit. And it looks as though we do have some room to absorb, not all of it at one time. We'd have to spread it out over, 5 to 6, 7 years. I'm going to want to go longer, but we'll see what that would work out to, on top of just regular debt service and our obligation to the school district.
Mr. Posey, do you have any questions?
Not at this time.
Mr. Culp?
I do not.
Mr. Schneider, is there a specific question you'd like to ask the trustees?
well, again, I think the general question that we have tonight is just what direction the board would like to go with this. If you need more information, if you feel that there is issues with the roadways that we need to get fixed and resolved, if you want to do that through, again, an agreement, in the near term with the current ownership. And I guess if you're it is your desire to utilize the TIF funding for that. Obviously, again, we have lots of different projects and programs going on. There's always needs for different sources of money. So I certainly understand you may have different feelings on that one way or the other. So, but the TIF would free up some of the JED revenues potentially, as opposed to using that source of funding. But I guess I don't know, Ron, do you have something specific that you want to?
Did I understand you correctly, Chris, that the current, which is relatively new ownership, has approached the township and offering to help fund some of this improvement because they feel these roads should be replaced sooner than we might choose to replace them without them?
Yes, essentially, they have proposed a program to utilizing their funds, get the roads repaired and replaced. But they are seeking that we would reimburse effectively that investment over a period of time, which is to be determined. So I guess the question is that something that the board desires us to continue to pursue with them? One thought the developers, the current ownership had, was that in part because of the lockdowns, they had less traffic going through there, and this would be an ideal time to try to do some of this work. Because of the nature of particularly Innovation Drive, closing that down will cause some constraints and headaches down there from a traffic flow perspective. But again, that's their request, and obviously we would have to work out the details of exactly how much you're willing to put towards it. Again, that's where I kind of defer to Clay to see what our capacity is, and then how long of a time frame you would like to repay that investment. So,
And these are public roads, so they would fall if they're not funding it, the money up front, that would eventually fall to us at some time, depending on Dan's budget, to fix some of these. So again, looking at the TIF dollars, looking at the JED dollars, we looked at that idea so that Springboro and Miamisburg also contributed toward it, but the JED dollars can be used for other things within the township where the TIF can't. It has to be right there. So again, it was more of this presentation was to get direction from the board on which way you want us to go. If you give us the direction, then we'll have a more detailed report to you on total cost and breakdown and where the funding is coming from.
My reply to that would be, in my opinion, in order for the trustees to make an informed decision, we need to know as much detail as possible. If Mr. Mayberry could contribute and offer what he believes the conditions of the roads are, whether they are in a position where they need immediate repair, if they are 4 or 5 or 10 years away from needing it done, and the owners are just asking to get it done now because they'd like it to get done sooner rather than later. The unique circumstances of the potential funding opportunities and whether those will expire in the future or still be there in the future, as well as, is there something unique in this opportunity with the owners bringing forth a proposal that somehow lowers our cost? Those are all the details I would need to see before I would be comfortable making a decision. So I think my response to you, Chris and Ron and Clay, is yes, investigate all of the options and bring us back as much information as you can about the importance of doing this now versus later.
Well, there is a report out there on a evaluation of the roadway that Dan and Wes Wade were involved with the inspection company. So that is there. And I think Dan can maybe just touch about 2 minutes on that, just to let you know what the conditions of the roads are. Dan, if you just want just a couple of minutes on that.
Yeah, like Ron said, we met with the paving contractor to go over the areas that were proposed to be repaired, and we did agree that this was a compromise to starting from scratch and removing all pavement and restoring some of the base material. So we agreed to the plan that was proposed by the paving contractor, and that's where this $500,000+ cost came from. So does not cover all the public roads in Austin Landing, but it covers a large percentage of the originally constructed road sections.
Can somebody speak to the confidence that these repairs would actually affect, or let's say this, resolve the issues that have cropped up where this is failing early?
Yeah, the sections that are failing, the road composition is proposed to be a more substantial asphalt material, larger rock, larger stone in the mix. So they would dig out a deeper section of pavement and including some of the base material. And then they would compact that base material, and then they would do layering of it's called a deep base asphalt pavement, and then a surface course asphalt pavement.
My only final comment is, I think coming out of this pandemic, we still don't know what the new traffic patterns are going to look like in Austin Landing. Let's hope that we can return to normal quickly. But the retail sector is facing many, many challenges. The restaurant sector is going to have to retool itself. So before we jump into any decisions and major investments in roadways, we need to make sure that a lot of those businesses are still going to be viable and the traffic patterns are going to remain. I don't want to make decisions based on historical numbers because we don't know that they're going to be anywhere close to accurate moving forward. Anyone have any comments? Seeing none, I will make a motion to end the work session at 6:37. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Morris,
Aye.
Mr. Culp,
Aye.
Mr. Posey.
Aye.
For those who are on the call, this will be the last formal business of this meeting. In a second, I will make a motion to adjourn into executive session. At the conclusion of that executive session, we will adjourn the meeting. There will be no further action taken by the trustees this evening. So with that, I will make a motion at 6:38 to adjourn into executive session for conference with an attorney for the public body concerning disputes involving the public body that are the subject of permitting or imminent court action in accordance with ORC 121.22 subsection G3.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Morris,
Aye.
Mr. Culp,
Aye.
Mr. Posey.
Aye.
Thank you all very much for attending. We are moving into executive session.